F. Scott Fitzgerald, his wife Zelda, and Ernest Hemingway were the gilded youth of their generation. But all three found themselves on the road to madness. Zelda Fitzgerald ended up in an asylum for the insane. Hemingway blew his brains out, and F. Scott Fitzgerald became a depressive drunk who died in his early 40s. My musical Road to Madness examines the twists and turns in the lives of this trio, with a central focus on Fitzgerald. It all takes place in Purgatory, where they are interviewed by someone who has a deep nostalgia for the period Fitzgerald wrote about, even though that was long before she was born. The show, which has a cast of 4, opens in darkness as the 4 reflect on the fleeting nature of fame and life in general in the song Bask in the Glory.
Bask in the glory while you may, since it never lasts and quickly fades away.
People live in grey obscurity.
Many are they who do not want to be non-entities.
They dream of being a celebrity.
That is their dream.
They dream of finding lots of wealth and fame.
That is their aim.
But it's all a game. That's always the same.
Most of us crave celebrity. That's what the records show.
But beauty and fame may not last long,
and very soon may go. It's always so. Bask in the glory while you may, for glory will fade too soon. Things that you take as fact today may be gone with tomorrow's moon.
We love can go so soon.
Many are those who think.
Fitzgerald is disorientated and confused as the lights come up on him sitting in a chair while mists roll across the stage.
I have lost all sense of individuation. I cannot tell exactly where my life's horizon ends. I feel that I am caught up in some never-ending dream, along a misty road that's full of potholes, twists and bends. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering who I am, while other times I see things with a painful clarity. I cannot tell the time, whether it's day or night. I cannot see just what defines reality. The present and the past have no dividing lines. All intersections blur, there's nothing clearly to be seen. I'm on a path that does not have direction signs at all, and keeps returning me to the same old places I have been. Where do I go from here? I really do not know. It seems I must relive the past again and again.
scenes of both ecstatic joy and pain, and try to make some sense of things that happened long ago.
Fitzgerald is approached by a woman who was born after his death, but is now also dead, as are all four characters in this show. She expresses her fondness and nostalgia for the era Fitzgerald wrote about.
I often feel a deep sense of nostalgia for certain things that happened long ago. I seem to have these thoughts of times and places that I was simply far too young to know. It might seem strange that I should have these yearnings for times before my birth, and yet it's true. I just can't stop myself from being haunted by nostalgia for a time I never knew. It might well be those times were less than perfect. That's always been the case in history. But every now and then there comes a special time when things just seem as bright as they can be. A time when things seem more relaxed and carefree. When people have the time to stop and say hello. When folks seem so much more polite and friendly. And strangers are just friends you do not know. Wide-eyed innocence, primrose path with picket fence, and a certain sense that things are meant to be. The Saturday Evening Post, Ovaltine and buttered toast, Norman Rockwell on the walls, and faith in destiny. It may be that the times for which I'm young.
The interviewer questions Fitzgerald about his friendship with Ernest Hemingway and his continuing defense of Hemingway, whom he had given so much support as a writer, and who had betrayed their friendship with unkind remarks in his memoirs. The interviewer regards Hemingway as a glorified journalist rather than a great writer.
A man who tried so hard to prove what a man he was. He seemed to be filled with much insecurity. He was a troubled man, I have no doubt of that.
That is not the way he seemed to me.
I have no
He
doubt.
always seemed to me a man of destiny, a man whose star was always on the rise.
No doubting that.
Seemed so confident, a man in charge of life.
But there were things you failed to recognize. Don't forget he took his own life. All relationships failed in the end. Every marriage ended in anguish. He was left without a single friend.
I was the only friend he had.
I think he was bad.
I still think he was a talented man.
The interviewer compliments Fitzgerald on the way he captured the nature of self-consciousness in his writings.
I was so self-conscious and shy as a
The
child.
same with me.
I was a gawky and crass adolescent, Each part of me seemed to move independently. I never knew what to do.
I know just what you went through.
When I tried to talk to girls, I just became nervous and tongue-tied, awkward as all get out.
Just like Basil in those stories you wrote about. Yes, I remember it too. I was uncertain of myself and my looks.
The same with me.
And so I locked myself away with my books. Each of my limbs seemed to have a mind of its own. I never knew what to do.
I know just what you went through.
Your books were a great source of comfort to me. They took me away from the world that I knew. You were a refuge for shy people everywhere.
I'd like to think that is true.
Yes, it's true.
I found it hard to relate to the other kids.
I never had any really close friends.
I lived my life in the world of my imagination. All I could do was pretend. If you're born self-conscious, there's not much you can do about it.
It is a curse I never overcame.
I tried to be so suave and debonair, but it was always the same.
I was exactly the same.
That's how it is when you're shy.
Sometimes you just want to die,
and you may never know why.
Zelda Fitzgerald, who died in a fire at the asylum, appears dressed in a charred gown. She accuses Fitzgerald of having had a crush on Hemingway, suggesting that there was a sexual element to their friendship. Fitzgerald says he simply looked on Hemingway as the friend he never had as a child.
I just wanted a good friend, nothing more than that. I had hoped he'd be a pal. I never had a close friend when I was young. That is all there is to tell. When we met, I thought that maybe we could have a lot to share. Someone who could be the brother I never had. He seemed an answer to a prayer.
I can quite relate to that. It was my dream too. As a sad and lonely girl, I longed for someone who could share all my hopes and dreams. In my closed-off little world, my folks lived the life of nomads, always moving somewhere new. It is hard to keep a friend for long when you're always on the move. We both wandered through our childhood days, forced to find our way alone, having no one to confide in, rootless as a rolling stone.
I only found what loneliness was all about when I gave my heart to you.
I know you felt yourself adrift every time that I had a lot of work to do, but there was never anybody else that I cared for as much as you.
I no longer know what I believe, know what is false and what is true.
Zelda continues to taunt Fitzgerald and accuses him of being a flop in bed.
You don't know Francis, the lousy lover. He is a sad, total flop in the sack. Anyone looking for true satisfaction would soon be asking for their money back.
Next you will say that I have a small penis. You have told every single one of our friends. You have become such a bore on the subject.
And it's all designed to undermine your self-confidence. It's the oldest way of all to scratch a man where it itches. Simply tell him that his dick is far too tiny for his britches.
That's what she did all the time.
He was so concerned about the size of his penis that he went running to his friends to compare. One just can't imagine their total surprise when he asked them if they would show him their size.
She was always like that, always trying to embarrass me.
Fitzgerald tells Zelda that she was always a little mad. Zelda retorts that it was Fitzgerald himself who had put her on the road to madness.
You can have no idea what you have put me through, even if you did not wish it to be. I became jealous of all things that focused your thoughts in a way that took some of your attention from me. In me after I lost my sense of self and became dependent on you. I grew desperate to justify myself. I felt I had something to prove. I tried everything I could to make you see that I deserve to be loved. Things soon became so obtuse and confused. I just could not see straight. Everything became blurred. Feeling estranged left me sad and deranged. I believe certain things that were clearly absurd.
Hemingway appears and scoffs at all the aspects of the jazz age that Fitzgerald defined in his writings. Fitzgerald accepts that it was a time of shallow frivolity, but also recalls it as a time of great fun and rejoicing after the end of the First World War.
The war had ended, it was time to celebrate.
The world was at peace, a time of innocence and fun.
Such frivolous time.
A time to leave behind the worries of the past.
A new day dawned for everyone. And oh, what a time it was, everyone doing the Charleston. With every sporting bright lipstick and bobbing her hair.
Oh, what a farce.
The boys all dressed in zoot suits, trying hard to look stylish and debonair. And everyone acting as if they were free of all cares. Those words,
So dumb and silly, that silly old song.
yes,
We have no bananas. We have no bananas today.
we all became investors in a rising tide of
Blinded by
hope,
greed.
with stocks and shares increasing every day.
It never could last.
And everyone grew richer while their shares went through the roof. And life just seemed so great in every way. And oh, what a time it was, everyone doing the Charleston, with every ghost body.
Hemingway sneeringly dismisses this era as a mindless waste of time and energy. The interviewer retorts that Hemingway stripped life of its richness and diversity in his minimalistic prose.
You stripped the soul and the fun from existence when you scaled down every thought, every sense. You led the way to the start of an era that finally put an end to innocence.
That is not true. You're deluded. All that I did was distill what had been. I looked at life as it was and excluded the dross and the static and the noise from the things I'd seen.
Living life to the full means to use all your senses. How can you connect at all behind that wall of your defenses? Who is to blame for a world drained of beauty? People like you. That is who, stripping away all the things that define us.
Everything you say is quite untrue.
Not having been born into Fitzgerald's privileged world or having had the benefit of an education at Princeton, Hemingway says he was forced to struggle for everything he achieved.
Nothing came easily. I had to work so hard to make my name. No wealthy family, no silver spoon for me. I had to fight for everything that came. I could not help but resent those who had it all, living without a care. Those who strutted through life with a smug and feckless air. At first they looked down on me. I was to them a pet that they could tame. How they would patronize, but to their great surprise, I quickly learned to beat them at their game. And very soon I had gained the ascendancy. Everyone knew my name. Life was so very different with wealth and fame. But underneath, I felt that I was just there.
Hemingway admits his resentment of Fitzgerald, but is even more scathing about Zelda, whom he regards as a mindless fun-seeker who was constantly demanding attention and diverting her husband from his writings. He also infers that she was a tramp and claims he had once had sex with her. Zelda gives him the same treatment she gave her husband about his manhood, sneeringly dismissing Hemingway as yet another flop in bed.
You just resented me because you knew that I could see through you. It was quite clear to me you were a phony, and I just regret that others couldn't see it too. As for that night, I'm compelled to inform you that you were a flop in bed. If it came to a choice, I'd eat broken glass instead.
Of course you are bound to say something like that, but we both know.
The conversation turns to Hemingway's friendship with Fitzgerald. It becomes apparent that Hemingway's feelings for Fitzgerald ran deeper than he could admit either to himself or to others.
I could never find the words to express the things that lay deep inside of me. Thoughts of tenderness and love stayed locked up inside in a vault without a key. I saw sentiment as weakness, something I could not abide. Anyone who got too close to me was quickly shown the road outside. I always tried my best to be a man, one who always stood his ground, everyone who failed to live up to my...
Act 1 ends with Fitzgerald trying to make sense of his past.
Thinking of events in my life, I just wonder if I could have changed the course of things that happened, or were they always meant to be? Is our whole life predetermined? Are we simply the sum of genetics and environment? Was there any other road for me? Am I doomed to worry and wonder and ponder for eternity? How much of the blame should I carry for the shame of the troubles that ensued when my muse deserted me? I replay it over and over to try to find some clarity. Just like a mirage, it remains beyond my reach and leads to more obscurity. Poetry's a